What's up, everyone? Lexi here. I just turned 46 on June 1st, and not to paint a sad story, but I never got video games for birthday gifts as a kid, receiving clothes instead. Boring! So this kinda got me thinking. If I were a kid today, what RPG would I want to receive on my birthday? This question got me curious, so I asked my YouTube friends to answer the same question. Some of their picks are questionable at best, if only because I doubt younger kids would understand complex political machinations and narratives. But hey, it's their choice. While you watch this video, think about how you'd answer this question, and post your answer in the comments below. Personally, I've been thinking about how to answer this question. It's easy to pick current favorites, sure, but I've already talked about 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim, Octopath Traveler 2, and soon enough, a whole lot of Claire Obscure Expedition 33 in multiple videos. So I went back and thought about all of the RPGs that I played and tried to narrow things down. Should I go with a game that's narratively rich, maybe one with multiple endings? Or should I go with an RPG that carries a little bit of whimsy with tons of adventure? How about both? That's when my mind immediately went to Chrono Trigger. I replayed Chrono Trigger recently on my Steam Deck, and I swear, every time I step into its world, it never fails to immerse me right away. The quality of its sprite work was way ahead of its time, featuring both dazzling colors that brightened up scenes and mood-setting color palettes for when things called for drama. This game combined the ATB system with a battle system that played out on the field, with multiple ways for enemies to attack and ambush you, which was very revolutionary at the time. And the combos you can make with your party added another level of depth that separated it from Final Fantasy. Its soundtrack, composed by both Yasunori Mitsuda and Nobuo Uematsu, is mesmerizing and fittingly nostalgic. And of course, I have to mention the dream team of Yuji Horii of Dragon Quest, Hironobu Sakaguchi of Final Fantasy, and Akira Toriyama of Dragon Ball Z, all at the helm years before any mega collaboration of any kind in any media. Needless to say, Chrono Trigger would absolutely be one of those games that I'd love to get as a kid celebrating their birthday today, and I'd imagine I'd be super happy and delighted to get it. Now let's find out what my friends chose for their birthday presents.
Hi there, everybody. This is David over at the channel davidvinc, and I do want to be the first to wish Lexi a very happy birthday. A game that I would love to open up nowadays for my birthday, and it might be a little tiny bit of cheating because I got it whenever I was, well, not a kid, a teenager, actually an adult for the second one, would be the Lunar Remastered Collection. I bought these myself because I was a working girl at the time, and yeah, they are some of my favorite games back then, and even to date, I've played them more times than I can count. They are traditional turn-based RPGs with a world map, with an equipment system, you know, all the kind of classic stuff that I really thoroughly enjoy. And they tell such a gripping story filled with lighthearted characters that you just can't help but love. You start off as Alex, a little kid from a small town with his girly friend Luna, as he sets off to become a dragon master, but along the way, you know, things don't really go according to plan, and he has to save the world. Then 1,000 years later, Lunar 2 takes place, still in the same world, but it's been changed quite a bit. And the story now follows Hero, who's an archaeologist of all things, as he also sets out to help this mysterious girl that he encountered, Lucia, of the Blue Star. And, you know, people come back from the first game and everything, and it ties together so nicely. And I am shocked that it actually did get a remaster, but I am super happy about it, that now people today can play these games of my youth. I'd love to say it was my youth, but I'm an old bitch.
If I were a kid today, and I kind of am a kid, plus or minus a few letters. Without a doubt, the game I'd like to unwrap for my birthday is the HD remasters of Suikoden 1 and 2, Gate Rune, and Dunin Unification Wars. Unfortunately, I'm kind of an old man and I only just unwrapped my copy of the game before filming today. With this collection, not only do you get 2 great JRPGs, but one of them is largely considered one of the greatest JRPGs of all time. And you get them not at half price or 2 for the price of 1, but like 2 for 30% the cost of just one of them physically. A classic copy of Suikoden 2 in the West, unfortunately, has a price to match its reputation. This remaster collection offers a solution to this issue, as well as a fresh new way for a whole new generation to discover, own, and play these absolute classics. For us older school JRPG enjoyers, this is a great time to be alive. So many classics have been getting remastered and re-released in new accessible collections. It really feels like we're in a second age for these game bundle releases too, which I will always champion. Much like the first release of this game, however, the physical copies won't be around forever. So for those curious, do not miss out on this incredible second chance to pick up and play some of the most cherished and beautiful turn-based JRPGs ever made.
Hey, this is Emily from Orbalology, and a big happy birthday to Lexi. And if I were a kid growing up today, I think one of the coolest JRPGs I could have received as a present is none other than Xenoblade Chronicles, the definitive edition for the Nintendo Switch. Growing up, I think my story may be fairly common in that Pokemon was my first ever JRPG, but it wasn't until much later that I really sunk into the genre. So I think experiencing Xenoblade Chronicles a little bit earlier on would have really blossomed my love for JRPGs, and I would have sought out more JRPG experiences when I was a kid. I think there's just something so magical about this first Xenoblade game that really would have captivated me as a kid. Not only does it have such an epic story that you can't help but want to know what's going on in the world and with all the characters, but it has such a unique combat system that I really would have loved to tinker with as a kid and really kind of understand the insides and out of how it works. But I think the biggest draw for me would have been just seeing how massive the environments are and just the scale that they were able to accomplish in this amazing game. Not only are all the environments just so beautiful and diverse to explore, I think trying to navigate them while not trying to trigger aggro from the 80 level monsters out there would have just been so fun. And just considering all these elements that Xenoblade Chronicles offers and more, I think really would have blossomed my love for JRPGs much sooner, and I probably would have sought out more unique JRPG experiences to play.
Hey everybody, it's femtrooper, and Lexi asked if I were a kid today, what JRPG would I like to unwrap as a present for my birthday? And that was a tough one, I'll admit. I realize the answer is obvious because of the footage I'm showing, but the reason is there are so many games I know my kid self would love today, but then I think about all the knowledge I have to play those games as an adult, and I didn't know about half of these games or series when I was a kid. So I chose Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door on the Switch. This is a game that if I were a kid now, I would definitely be aware of because it's more directed at kids and it's a franchise that I was very familiar with. I really enjoyed Paper Mario because of how different it was from the other Mario games. Keep in mind that I wasn't that savvy about JRPGs. I had only really played Earthbound and Super Mario RPG, and it wasn't until I was a teenager that I discovered JRPGs the way I know them now. And yes, this game is a remaster, and the original game came out when I was a teenager at a time when I wasn't really playing games like this. So yeah, my kid self would have loved this. It's got a great story that's super witty and charming, looks adorable, has a killer soundtrack, fun combat system with timed button presses, and very memorable characters and locations. It's fun to explore and go to all the different towns and walk into people's houses and shops. That was my favorite thing to do as a kid. Could I beat this as a kid? Probably not, but that's okay. I would probably spend months and months with it, just enjoying whatever I could do. I may have just played this for the first time recently, but I can confirm that it's a solid game and a great JRPG. Thank you, Lexi, for having me on to give my pick, and I'll see you over at my channel.
Hi, I'm Britta, Food for Dogs, and thank you, Lexi, for inviting me to this collab. If video games had been around when I was a child, I would have jumped at this tactical RPG set in France in the late Middle Ages during the 100 Years' War. I loved history. It was a cauldron of exciting tales to me, of adventure based on real events. The story of Joan of Arc is one such tale, and it is brought to life in Level 5's Jeanne d'Arc, with many stunning animation cutscenes showing medieval warfare, kings and their treacherous advisors, but also many fantasy creatures and magical powers shaping historical victories. To a child, it's all fuel for a story. Historical veracity is of interest for sure, but this is a game after all. So I was surprised when I realized that the progress of Jeanne's military campaign actually follows the known historical time map very closely. We also meet many personages of historical importance, such as the Duke of Bedford, who looks rather like a Disney character to me, John Talbot, known as Terror of the French, La Hire, who is a leonine character in-game, and the gloomy, controversial figure of Gilles de Rais. Each map in Jeanne d'Arc is interesting to play and different from the next one. Difficulty increases in the game's second half, and crafting equipable skills with the cute toad Cuisse is essential. Jeanne d'Arc would have seemed to the childhood me like a history book come alive with real and fantastical happenings, intertwined so adroitly into a compelling and challenging game. The second half turns increasingly towards darker fantasy, and the game, aimed at a teenage audience, ends on a happy note. The complete opposite, of course, to the tragic end of Joan of Arc. Level 5 have produced many of my favourite games, and I can't think of a better birthday present for the child in me today than Jeanne d'Arc. Thank you.
Hey everybody, Eric here. Thanks so much for having me on again, and I'm very excited to be chatting about a game that I would have loved as a birthday present as a kid. Now, while the obvious choice for me would be something like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I mean, that would be such a nostalgia trip now as a full-grown Final Fantasy VII kid, but I think actually Metaphor ReFantasia would be the better pick. In Metaphor, you play as somebody chosen by fate that could change the fate of the world, and the gameplay here combines real-time exploration with turn-based battles, so you can scope out the enemies in the environments before diving into fights. A real highlight of Metaphor is the job system of the game, the archetypes, and I love how you can build them up and craft parties that fits your playstyle. There's lots of freedom in how you approach battles and team building, and I know this is something that a younger me would have really loved, especially the different archetype designs. There's so many of them, and they're really cool. The game's world is also rich with politics and different nations, and each characters who have their own goals and beliefs and backstories and reasons for doing what they're doing. You'll spend a lot of time getting to know your party members, growing relationships with social links, and navigating events through a unique calendar system, all while enjoying different activities and things throughout the day. Now, outside of combat, there's a lot of things to explore and do, a lot of dialogue-driven moments that flesh out the story of the game as well. And even though it leans into a classic fantasy vibe, the overall themes of Metaphor make it feel really grounded, touching on topics like leadership and class division, which echoes themes here in the real world. And with its bold art style and deep gameplay systems, Metaphor would have been a mind-blowing game for me as a kid, and maybe honestly I would have enjoyed a lot more than I do now. Thanks so much again for having me on. It's great to chat about Metaphor in a positive way, even though it wasn't really my game of the year last year, but still a fantastic experience. And yeah, this definitely would have been a hit for younger me.
Hey you guys, TagTheLegend here, and if we're talking about games that I would love to get in today's world as a gift for my birthday if I were a kid, I feel like I easily go to Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, every single time. I just remember me as a kid and I was always looking for that next game to get lost in, and I always had a love for just anime style graphics, and I feel like Grand Blue Fantasy Relink offers exactly that. Being able to play with a wide variety of characters and customize my party however I want to, I would easily get hundreds of hours in character progression with Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, especially if I decided to play it all solo, take on all the dungeons by myself, farm all the gear by myself. Oh man, take all the raid bosses by myself. It would have just been a magical experience, and I know that would have lasted me a long time until I was able to get my next game. And then on top of that, with Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, you have the online options. So if I didn't get the chance to play it at launch, where everyone was playing it, I could potentially convince some of my friends at school to pick it up as well. And I feel like that just opens up an entirely separate new experience with tons of more hours that I can invest in it, grinding mobs with my friends to help them get the mats for their terminus weapons, each of us having our distinct mains that we play and that we're gods at, and then farming, like I said, the in-game weapons to awaken them. Like, this would have just been a magical experience to play as a child, and I would have just felt like a kid in a candy store, especially with the technologies they have today to be able to just hop in Discord and communicate with your friends while you're playing.
Hey friends, I'm Brandon from JustTheGems. Thanks so much, Lexi, for having me on. When we were kids, I'm sure we all experienced that drought that comes between games. You get one for your birthday and you play the heck out of it until the holidays, when hopefully you get one or two more. If I were a kid again and my birthday was coming around and I had one game I was keeping my fingers crossed to find wrapped in the pile of presents, it would without a doubt be Harvestella. And I would have had no problem playing that game endlessly until the next time I received a new game. And honestly, I probably would have found reasons to keep playing it even then. The reason I think Harvestella would have resonated with me back then is because playing it reignited those feelings of childlike wonder I haven't experienced with a game since I was a teenager. The game has this beautiful, ethereal presentation that elevates it above so many other games. Despite not having a huge budget, Harvestella outclasses other games through the brilliance of its art design. Actually, everything about its presentation, from the graphics to the music to the character designs, it all works together to create a game that punches way above its weight class. You get to put together a party of such interesting characters and fight your way through this incredibly beautiful world. I would have never seen anything close to this as a kid. Being able to change classes on the fly, giving you access to a huge assortment of combat abilities, it has the sort of flexibility games just didn't have back then. I've clung to Harvestella so strongly because it resonated with me like games used to, back before I grew up and had to deal with, responsibilities. It's really cool to be able to find experiences like that, even as an adult.
Thanks to everyone who joined me for this collab, and be sure to check out their channels, which I've linked in the chapter markers in the description. But now it's your turn. What RPG would you like to open up as a present for your birthday? Post your thoughts in the comments below and let's talk about it. Thank you very much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.